means a single page application, you can go to the multiple pages to edit, and this will be the kilometers of pages. That means it's possible, even though that's why I'm thinking like this way, single page, and even though you can combine all the models with the single pages applications. So if I go to the real independent single page application like our data models, our geometry models, you can independently store the geometry and then do the CRUD operation with the geometry itself without any relationship and any mapping with the user registration, user role, or other part of the applications. So it is information, this one, so it is designed, so it has a spatial tables, geometry info tables, and it has a geometry GIS dataset embedded. That's I want to talk about this one, and it has own repository model. Everything the same, the JPA repository, pass the repository, and then so on and so forth. And this is our geometry service definition, that the CRUD operation, normal CRUD operation, and this is the implementation of your CRUD operation. That's I said this is a little bit complex. I want to talk about this a little bit later more into the last screencast. You can look for this. This is one of the example. Save the geometry. There's a complex functionalities. You have the geometry converter, because you know the PostGIS database has some restriction. You cannot directly build the geometry into the database. That's why I use it as GeoSpatial Hibernate Spatial extension and store the geometry directly into the database. So we have pick the geometry object as a utility class, and utility class convert the geometry into the string, and then store the string geometry into the database level. I will show you the database itself. So I pick the geometry, I set the georeferencing number, SRID number, and set the geometry, and then content with type of geometry it is. It is the point, line, polygons, or doesn't matter, and set the necessary information, store it. If there is no geometry information into database, and it says save empty objects, and then this is the read write, simply CRUD operation into the functionalities. That's I mean. So, and then there will be the, okay, we talk about this one is a registration. So that means we define our own specific domain models, we define all the repositories, we define the respective the interfaces, and then we implement those interfaces for the respective repository injection or whatever this information, and then we define all the necessary utility functions that we need sometimes for the serializer or non-serializer. These things you need to implement and call this serializer into your model functions. And this is our geometry utility function that I said. This is the converter, how can geometry works. And this is our there is no date. I have put it here my some example data and the coordinate points, and this is all the coordinate points. You can do the some server-side test with this string. I put it there, and this is the coordinate point from Bangladesh. Even though it is international, they don't need it, because this is it's not the web application. This is the REST API implications. You can, even though you can put it here some reason, something. And I put it here to all the SQL syntax also, what you need it. All the script, this extension, because we need a PostGIS extension. This is the creation of PostGIS database, and then PostGIS SQL extension. This you can simply run it and do some operations with that one. I will show you detail in when I did the SQL level implementation or call. I will show you. This is the properties settings for all the environmental variables, the Spring Boot profiling. I will talk a little bit later. And this is the pom.xml files. And this is our last release. You can see the release of the generations, target, and then the dependency, and then building the dependency, the source code target classes when I build the applications. And this is the test packages that I already talked about. This one, this is the JUnit test. I can do the JUnit test cases. I will omit it. Is all the test cases, and the service test you can do here. This one, service test in the server side, and that means you have a Spring Boot test coverage, a server side 100% test coverage. When the all test is passed in the server side, then you release your applicant deploy your application into different machines or anywhere where is the backend server located. After that, we will write down the this script. How can you? Now I already did it. This script I will show you later on the complete developments. And then when the deployment application is deployments done, then I start the testing for the postmans. That's the idea. I will continue with the next screencast how this works. So that means our registration models, we already discussed this all things together. And then now let's start to talk a little bit here with this screencast, and then I will continue with the next one. Let's see how it is the design for the other microservices. So we see that the microservice exactly the same design. It is like Spring Boot application. That's true. It's annotated properly, and then this is the and then it's the building information, floor information, plot information, unit information. So let's see the building information, plot information. It has own informations like plot code, plot name, blah blah blah, to on so forth. It has pictures, and it has coordinate points, and has a building heights and mean sea level height, and the pictures. You can take the pictures from your mobile phone and put it in the backend server where you exactly the plot located. And it has what's a relationship with the geometry, because every city, if you are living the city area, what doesn't matter where you're living, it has a building plots, and plot has a multiple buildings, and building has multiple floors, and the floor has a multiple units of information. Maybe you are living first floor and has a 3 or 5 or 2 units only, or single units. That's why this is the application is designed like this way, or mapped this way. So this is a plots, and it has a plot geometry itself information where exactly the plot located, and the same model says is there here. So it's UID, you have a which type of object you try to store. You have address ID, is it the registration address ID, and plot ID, building ID, floor ID, unit ID. If you have a single page application, that means you register your address, and you put it your floor ID or building ID or plot ID or unit ID, and then it has a necessary information, which city it is located, and which type of object it is. It is the floor object, or registration object, or building object, or floor object, or unit object, and it's a geometry object itself. So you define all the models, and then you define all the repositories. That's I said. Maybe we look for the plot repository for this case for now today. If you see I define the paging and sorting repository, except the JPA repository as a CRUD operation, because I need the really paging and sorting functionality into my web pages. That means if you look for my applications, you see that maybe there is a list of existing records is coming here, and here the top pages, and you have this first page, second page, third page, and total number of pages. That's what you're looking for. This one maybe in fifth. That's why I'm putting here the JPA paging and sorting repository. I will show you when the integration, when the release is done, and how the test is done for the. So here's the one of the example that I already talked about. This one, the annotation, the query annotation. You can pass the really complex queries in native SQLs, or doesn't matter JPQL or native SQL. So you can have a lot of possibilities to customize your calls. And I will talk about a little bit later. So I just give it to you how the model definitions, how the repository works, and it's everything same thing here. So you know. And this is the controller definitions. That's I said, okay, the last project I didn't talk about the controller. I mean the resource, but controller definition. So here is the service definition, exactly the same thing. Do the CRUD operation, some complex functionalities, search functionalities, and this is the implementation of the services, the service itself. So the very simple cases, some control. If you see that this is one of the example that I mean the paging and sorting functionalities. So see the pageable, and this is the one of the repository that you define here. So the repository has a pageable interface, and you inject the pageable interface in here, you pass the pageable object,